Its energy surrounds us and binds us.
What is up, my fellow Jedi, Sith, bounty hunters, and all you creatures from across the galaxy? Welcome back to Carbonite Convos. This is Nick, and thank you again for joining us for another Star Wars short story. Before we get started, don't forget to follow us on all major podcast platforms and social media platforms at Carbonite Convos, and we also have some personal handles that you can see on screen here. And don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube and hit that bell icon so you can be notified whenever we have a new video come out. But let's just get right into it. For today's short story, we'll be looking at the complete timeline of the famous Skywalker Lightsaber throughout the Skywalker Saga and the Clone Wars. This lightsaber has been in a lot of places throughout the Star Wars galaxy and in several different hands, so let's dive into this lightsaber's journey from the Clone Wars to the rise of Skywalker. Created and wielded first by Anakin Skywalker, this lightsaber was built as a replacement for the saber that Anakin destroyed in the droid foundry on Geonosis during Attack of the Clones. Following the canon timeline, the first time we see Anakin's new saber was during the Battle of Christophsis in the Clone Wars movie. As we would expect, we see Anakin use his lightsaber almost every time we see him throughout the 7 seasons of the Clone Wars, so we'll only look at one instance of this saber in the Clone Wars animated series when the saber was stolen by Count Dooku, otherwise known as Darth Tyrannus. After tracking down Dooku, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker shot down the Sith Lord's ship, where he was then forced to crash land on the planet of Vancor. While here, Dooku hid in a cave and drew the two Jedi in. When the moment was right, Dooku separated Obi-Wan and Anakin with rocks through the Force. This also separated Skywalker from his saber, where Dooku eventually took it. As Dooku fled the cave, he was met by Hondo Ohnaka and his gang of pirates on the outside. They then took Dooku and Anakin's saber to Florum, where Obi-Wan and Anakin eventually showed up and got the lightsaber back. Fast forwarding to Revenge of the Sith, Anakin and Obi-Wan battle Count Dooku once again during the Battle of Coruscant. After knocking Obi-Wan unconscious, Dooku's lightsaber skills fell short to Anakin's. This is one of the most pivotal moments of Anakin's eventual turn to the dark side. After cutting off Dooku's hands and retrieving his saber, Anakin used both sabers to slice Darth Tyrannus' head off at the command of Chancellor Palpatine, otherwise known as the Dark Lord of the Sith, Darth Sidious. Later, while trying to escape General Grievous' ship, we see Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Chancellor Palpatine trapped by a ray shield. Before R2 was able to come release them, a small battalion of battle droids detained them and took them to General Grievous. Grievous then took possession of both Obi-Wan and Anakin's lightsabers, followed by his famous line,
Your lightsabers will make a fine addition to my collection.
The two Jedi quickly took their sabers back using the Force, then had a short battle with some battle droids and General Grievous' Magna Guards. From here, the next time we see Anakin use the saber is to cut off Mace Windu's hand as the Jedi Master was preparing to strike down Darth Sidious with his own unique purple saber. This is the last time we see this lightsaber used by Anakin Skywalker, because this betrayal of Mace Windu completed Anakin's turn to the dark side, and he was then dubbed Darth Vader. Vader was then tasked with hunting down all remaining Jedi at the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, which is where we see arguably the most infamous use of this lightsaber. After storming the Jedi Temple with an army of clones, Vader proceeded to the quarters where the Jedi younglings were hiding. This is where we see him ignite his saber in front of the confused and scared younglings, but fortunately we don't see the violent act on screen. Following the Jedi Temple raid, Vader then traveled to Mustafar, where he murdered the Separatist leaders and awaited further instructions from his new master. He was then met by Padme and his former master Obi-Wan, eventually leading to the epic battle between master and apprentice. This battle ends with Obi-Wan cutting off all of Anakin's remaining limbs, causing the saber to fall to the gravel beside Mustafar's river of lava. At the end of this heartbreaking scene, Obi-Wan picks up Anakin's lightsaber and takes it with him to Coruscant to meet with Master Yoda. Master Kenobi then takes the saber and the newborn Luke Skywalker to Tatooine, where it stayed for the next 19 years until the events of A New Hope. This is where, in real life, we first see this famous saber.
What is it? Father's lightsaber. This is the weapon of a Jedi Knight. Not as clumsy or random as a blaster. An elegant weapon for a more civilized age.
Humorously, the first thing Luke does with the saber is look down the barrel, luckily not igniting it. On Luke and Obi-Wan's mission to Alderaan with R2, 3PO, Han Solo, and Chewie, we see Luke using the saber for the first time aboard the Millennium Falcon for training exercises. He was using the saber to deflect blaster shots from a Marksman H training droid, which is the last time we see him use the saber in the first Star Wars film. Luke used the lightsaber for many battles and missions between the time of A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back, but again, we're only covering its prominent usage throughout the Clone Wars and the Skywalker Saga. The next time we see the saber in use is during The Empire Strikes Back. After getting abducted and restrained upside down by a Wampa, Luke uses the Force to summon his lightsaber to him, where he then cuts himself free and slices off the arm of the charging beast. After Luke escapes the cave and runs into the snow, he's found by Han Solo, who went searching for him on his Tauntaun. This is where we see the first non-Force sensitive being wield a lightsaber, as Han uses the saber to cut open his Tauntaun and stuff Luke inside to keep him from dying. We then see Luke use the saber in the dark side cave on Dagobah. Here, we see a vision of Vader confronting Luke, with Luke then igniting his saber and cutting off Vader's head, which ended up being his own inside the helmet. One of the most famous uses of this saber comes next, where Luke travels to Bespin to confront Vader. This eventually leads to a duel between Jedi and Sith that ends up leading to the two battling it out on a steel beam over the depths of Cloud City. This is one of the most iconic scenes in Star Wars and in film as a whole. Vader cuts off Luke's saber-wielding hand, and the saber and his hand fall into the empty void below them, followed by the most iconic phrase in cinematic history.
No, I am your father.
This scene is the last time we see the Skywalker lightsaber in the original trilogy. Luke traveled back to Cloud City to look for his lost saber, but was never able to find it. This is when Luke fashioned his new green saber that we see him wielding in Return of the Jedi. Fast forward to The Force Awakens, the Skywalker lightsaber was thought to be gone forever until our heroine Rey, alongside Finn, Han Solo, and Chewie, traveled to Maz Kanata's castle on Takodana. While in the castle, Rey heard a little girl's scream come from the dungeon below. She then ventures down to investigate, which is where the Force directed her towards a cell filled with several artifacts. She kneeled down and opened a small box, revealing the famous lightsaber stashed inside of it. Upon touching the saber, Rey has her clairvoyant Force vision where she hears the voices of both Master Yoda and Master Obi-Wan Kenobi. This vision terrified Rey, and we then see Maz try to console her and tell Rey of her importance with the Force.
That lightsaber was Luke's, and his father's before him, and now it calls to you.
Rey wanted nothing to do with this and ran out, where we then see the First Order attack Maz's castle. Maz then brings Finn and Han down to the cellar, where a very concerned Han asked her where she got the saber. Maz avoids this question and notes that it's a story for another time, then hands it to Finn. A few moments later, when they are outside the castle, we see the saber ignite for the first time since Vader cut it off of Luke's body. Finn uses it throughout this battle against his former allies, and the next time we see the saber is during Finn and Rey's battle with Kylo Ren in the forest on Starkiller Base. Finn holds his own against Ren for some time, but eventually loses the battle and drops the saber in the snow. Now, for me personally, the next scene is one of my favorite scenes in the entire Skywalker saga. Kylo Ren then reaches out through the Force for the saber, but struggles. Moments later, the saber flies past him and into the hands of Rey. She then ignites it into the snowy air, leading to an intense battle with Kylo Ren. Rey comes out victorious and was then picked up by Chewie and the Falcon and brought to the Resistance base on Dakar. From here, we see Rey, R2, and Chewie travel to the island of Ahch-To in search of Luke Skywalker. The ending of The Force Awakens leads right into the beginning of The Last Jedi, and in this time frame, we see Rey hold out the famous saber in front of Luke, where he's speechless. Switching films, we then see Luke take the lightsaber and throw it over the cliff behind him. Rey then retrieves the saber and eventually convinces Luke to train her, which is where we see her training with the saber and later having an unfortunate skirmish with the old Jedi Master. From here, the next time we see the saber is when Supreme Leader Snoke uses the Force to take it, where he then places it right next to him. We then see Kylo betray Snoke, using the Force to ignite the saber, cutting Snoke in half, then sending it flying back into the hands of Rey. This is where we see one of the most cinematically beautiful scenes in Star Wars, where Rey and Kylo then fight Snoke's Praetorian Guards. At the end of this battle, both characters are wanting to go down a different path than the other, leading to Rey and Kylo each using the Force to try to reclaim the lightsaber. The raw power between the two forces the lightsaber to be severed in half, sending both characters flying back. We don't see this part, but Rey then gathers both pieces of the saber and brings it to the battle at Crait. We then see the lightsaber at the Battle of Crait, but it's not the physical lightsaber. What we actually see was Luke Skywalker force projecting the lightsaber and himself to battle Kylo Ren. Then, at the very end of the battle, in the Millennium Falcon, we see her talking to Leia with the broken pieces of the saber in her hands, asking how they would rebuild the Resistance. Leia replied, reassuring her that they had everything they needed. Fast forward to the events of the Rise of Skywalker, we see the saber fixed and fully functional in Rey's hands as she's training on the new Resistance base on Agen Kloss. Skipping ahead to when Kylo Ren tracks Rey down on Pasaana, we see one of the most badass scenes with this saber as Rey ignites it and starts charging the opposite way of Ren's charging speeder. She then uses the Force to jump over the ship while simultaneously using the saber to slice one of the wings off of his TIE fighter. Now, they didn't actually battle with sabers during this scene, but it was still appropriate to throw it in there with how cool it was. During Rey's mission to retrieve the Sith Wayfinder and find Palpatine, we see Rey and Kylo have a few separate battles through the Force where she uses the lightsaber to defend herself. On the wreckage of the Death Star, we see Rey have another Force vision. In this vision, she's faced with the dark side version of herself. The two exchange some heavy strikes, but ultimately Rey falls back and is face to face with Kylo Ren. This leads to a very intense duel above a very powerful ocean where we see many heavy blows between the two. Ultimately, after the fierce battle winds down, we see Rey stab Kylo Ren in the abdomen with his own saber after he drops it, and then she force heals him, saving his life. From here, Rey travels back to Ahch-To Island where she plans to follow in Luke's footsteps and destroy all remnants of the Jedi Order. As she throws the lightsaber into the fire, we see a glowing hand emerge from the flame and catch the saber. None other than Luke Skywalker then gives her the lightsaber back and encourages Rey to finish the fight. The next time we see the saber is during Rey's climactic battle with the reincarnated Emperor Palpatine on Exegol. During the ceremonious sacrifice of Palpatine, through the Force, Rey gives the saber to the newly reborn Ben Solo as he uses it to strike down all of his Knights of Ren. As Ben fights the Knights, Rey uses Leia's old saber to battle Palpatine's Sovereign Protectors, a type of Sith trooper. The two end up at each other's side to face Palpatine, but after Palpatine sends Ben flying back into the abyss, he drops the saber once again. Moments later, Rey summons the lightsaber using the Force and strikes down Palpatine at the defense of his Force lightning with the help from all the Jedi that came before her. The last time we see the Skywalker lightsaber is at the end of the film when the newly dubbed Rey Skywalker takes both Luke and Leia's sabers to Luke's home on Tatooine, where she then wraps them in cloth and buries them in the sand. She then ignites her own lightsaber made from pieces of her staff, and after telling a Tatooine local who she was, the saga ends exactly how it begins, with Rey looking off into the distance at the twin suns. With the Skywalker Saga seemingly at an end, it's unknown whether we'll see this iconic lightsaber on the big screen ever again. But we can only hope that in the coming decades, the saga is reborn and someone either old or new dons this iconic saber once more. Again, we really appreciate everyone's support on another Star Wars short story, and we hope to see you back here soon. We have episode 15 of the Carbonite Convos podcast coming out this weekend, but until then, may the Force be with you.
Remember, the Force will be with you. Always.